Greetings, my friends, and welcome back. In a coming episode of Secrets from the Stacks, I will share with you a most interesting passage. It's from a book written by the only disciple of Schwaller de Lubic's, the French Egyptologist, symbolist, hermeticist, and master alchemist. Among many other topics, the book describes an ongoing relationship between Schwaller and another French alchemist that went by the name Fulcanelli. But before I can share that episode with you, we need a little backstory. So, shall we? Slightly before the First World War, there was an ongoing Hermetic revival in Paris among a dedicated group of scholars. The name Fulcanelli was at the center of it all. Schwaller at that time had already been working on documenting the Hermetic symbology of European cathedrals. This is when Fulcanelli approached him one day at a cafe, telling Schwaller he had heard about him and wanted him to stop by his house to discuss some topics best not spoken about in public. Upon their meeting, Fulcanelli shared with Schwaller a manuscript he had discovered and stolen from a local bookstore while working there. The store was in the business of buying old books from dilapidated estates. Fulcanelli discovered the strange handwritten and oil-stained manuscript inside of a copy of Sir Isaac Newton's alchemical writings. He approached Schwaller at the cafe to inquire if he could help him decipher it. And this is where their relationship began. Schwaller claims that Fulcanelli was a master artist as far as alchemical technique. It's just that he lacked the divine inspiration necessary to achieve the alchemical great work. Quote, he had made a technique of the proper gesture needed in the work, instead of leaving it to be divinely inspired. But what a technique! An unbelievable manipulator. That is valuable, of course. It is what makes the artist, but it does not make the philosopher. It was in this that Schwaller and Fulcanelli became complementary lab partners, each benefiting the other through their specialization. Fulcanelli the artist and technical manipulator, and Schwaller the mystic philosopher who understood the spirit of matter. Fulcanelli came to know about Schwaller's work on deciphering cathedral symbology. It was so extensive that Schwaller was putting together a book on the subject, which he planned to possibly publish. Fulcanelli constantly raved about his connections in the publishing world, so when he asked to borrow Schwaller's first draft to see if it was suitable for publishing, Schwaller thought nothing of it. There is a natural bond between people who have done this work with any degree of seriousness, Schwaller stated. Well, it ended up taking quite some time to get the draft back, and when he finally did, Fulcanelli insisted the information not be published, for it revealed too much, and publication would lead to adverse consequences. Schwaller agreed, having had the same thoughts about sharing his powerful discoveries. Schwaller gave no further thoughts on this interaction until years later when, to his astonishment, Fulcanelli published a book titled The Mystery of the Cathedrals, which was entirely based on Schwaller's still unpublished draft. Fulcanelli was a thief. Almost 2 decades later, after Schwaller finished constructing an alchemical laboratory in his new home, he got in touch with Fulcanelli. Quote, remember, I had been helping him financially all this time, notwithstanding his treachery with the cathedral book. It had been 19 years since he had shown me the manuscript he stole from the bookstore, and he had not made a step in all this time. 19 years without taking a step is a long time. I had set up the experiment which I hoped would prove the theory of the text once and for all, after which I intended to terminate my relationship with him. Remember, Schwaller was interested in Fulcanelli's technical abilities, something that made him an ideal lab assistant. Fulcanelli himself was incapable of achieving the great work, the ability to turn lead into gold, due to his over-reliance on his technical abilities and lack of, quote, divine inspiration, something Schwaller insists was essential in order to make proper gesture at the proper time. Remember that phrase. The experiment turned out to be successful. Schwaller's alchemical theories were proved correct. The results and implications of this experiment are unfortunately outside the purview of this video. You see, Fulcanelli was now privy to the inner workings of a very secret process, one he himself had tried to complete his entire life with no success. Now that he had witnessed the inner workings of the experiment, what would he do with the key to the alchemical mystery? Well, that's where my next episode of Secrets from the Stacks will pick up. Until then, try to remember, we are food for worms, lads. Seize the day.
There is always more to learn.